So we're going to start with the first step, which is search and explore. And overall on Alibaba.com, there are kind of at least 3 ways for you to do the search. The first is through keywords, just like when you, as a buyer, you do it on Amazon or on Google. And specifically, you can choose to search by products or by manufacturers. And these two are not completely parallel paths, they do cross paths. So you don't have to say you have to start with one or the other. And I'll go into more details in a little bit about kind of what the differences are. And second, we roll out the feature of search with images, which has been one of the most appreciated features, especially when you think about when maybe it's hard for you to describe certain things, or you just saw something really cool, you can just search directly with the image. And then the last is we are developing a lot of the acceleration or features with AI. We currently have one already live for searching for manufacturers. And later this month, we will be rolling out a brand new kind of function in our main site for searching for products as well. So what I'm going to do is I will switch to a different screen now and kind of show you what it looks like on the site. Let's start with this one. So hopefully you can see my screen. This is a home page. For some of you, if you have not logged in at all, maybe you might see a different screen that is more of a general intro. So once you log in or once you try to kind of search for something, it should come back. But this should be the main page where we have 3 options. You can search for products, you can search for manufacturers, and you can search for regional supplies. So I'll quickly explain. So for products, these are typically used for a few scenarios. For example, this does not really apply to our case because we're focusing on private label products. But let's say for drop shippers or someone who is only looking to source ready to ship products, then you can just go right here for things that you want to purchase. But then once you get into it, let's see, maybe you, I was just looking at an example of binoculars. Then within them, you will still be able to get routed or find the relevant suppliers, and then you can go down to the supplier route. The other possibility could be maybe you're just trying to see what's trending, what's interesting, what are some new possible product categories or product types that you can think about for your shop. Then that's another good way for you to look for products. And there are lots of different kind of functions or layers that kind of shows you what are the latest new things that you can explore. And then for manufacturers, so typically what this is really good for is especially when you are building highly customized products, meaning that most likely you're not going to find anything similar in the prototype. Or maybe you find something similar, but you do want to make sure that you are reaching out to suppliers and manufacturers who has the capability of developing those customizations for you. So this will be a good time for you to use this tab. The very last tab, a little less relevant to us, but still something you can explore, is regional supplies. So this goes back to our original, what I said earlier about building that global supply chain. So if you're specifically interested in regional products or local suppliers, it can be for many different reasons. It can be because you are based in a certain country and being locally made is a key branding for you, then you can make sure you're looking for local suppliers. Or maybe you are specifically looking for kind of different trends or themes or elements, especially maybe you're in clothing or jewelry or things like that. You want to make sure you're sourcing those locally made or uniquely designed options. Or maybe it's because that you have some limitation in lead time. You cannot wait for a really long shipment situation. It wouldn't take too long, but maybe you have a really short turnaround. So this will also be a good time where you can go through, kind of see if there's any specific countries you're interested in and see what are the kind of products offered for those regional suppliers. So that's kind of on a high level, the things you can do here. And then for each of them, this is currently more of a typical search bar where you can put keywords. And when it comes to keywords, I think I have a few callouts here. I think the first is that you want to be as specific as possible when you are searching for items. So because if you look for something too generic, let's say we're just looking for binoculars. I'm going to use the same example before. Then highly likely you're going to end up with, so let's see, we have about 10K plus options. So that's a lot for you to parse through and maybe find what's interesting for you, right? So when you already have an idea about the long tail keywords, maybe those you find from Data Dive, that would be a really good place for you to add them in to help you kind of narrow down the search. So it can be, in our last example, it would be binoculars for kids, right? So that would be a good example of adding additional kind of like limitation or perspective to narrow down the search. So now we're down for about 1,000 plus. So then you can go through and see the details. I'm going to talk about evaluation in a little bit, but that's the first thing. And the second thing is that it's a little bit about spelling. So most of our translations, I would say that the majority of them are still a bit more on the US spelling. And when I say spelling, it's not just about using maybe the specific letters within the word, but maybe sometimes you have a very regional phrase for an item that may not be captured. There is a way for you to change kind of the based on your location. You might adapt different language and things like that. But generally speaking, something that you want to consider in your searches to see, is there any additional terms? Again, maybe Data Dive can help you with that. And I think I have a few examples, like maybe I think in the US we call faucets, and then in the UK it's called tap. So things like that you might want to pay attention to and make sure you are adding in additional keywords that might be helpful to expand and make sure you're not missing out on additional products with suppliers. So those are a few things. And then, so that's for the first, is searching with keywords. The other thing that you might have already seen here is the image search. So you can access it here in the search bar or in the home page. You can also use it right here. So this allows you to upload any images. So here are a few kind of discussion points. I think the first is that what are some great scenarios for image search? First example is that you saw something really cool from maybe on Amazon, on a competitor, right? You already have an example, then just put it in, and then Alibaba.com can help you find, are there any existing suppliers kind of providing those to you? Or maybe it's because it's really hard to describe, especially let's say I'm combining two different elements. I think previously I had an example from another buyer who had an interesting idea about, okay, I want to develop some furnitures, smaller scale, like think about lamps or coffee table, but it's themed with gym equipment, like a dumbbell. So maybe we can use that as a gift line for people to buy and give it to their friends who are very, very passionate about going to the gym. So maybe those are examples where you might want to use ChatGPT to get some images and just throw those images in, as opposed to you typing a whole paragraph of descriptions, right? Hoping that the system is finding out for you. So those are some good examples. A lot of times what we found for our really experienced buyers is that throughout the week, when they're on LinkedIn, when they're on Pinterest, when they're on Etsy, they will just save lots of images, put them in a folder. And then maybe every Sunday, what they would do is throw those images into Alibaba.com and just see like what's the market look like, what you can do. So those could be good options. On the other hand though, what are some scenarios where maybe image search is not really a good option? The most common one is if you have features that cannot be easily captured by an image. Let's say maybe something where the product can move, where it has a sensor, right? Anything that cannot be captured just by looking at it, then we will recommend you to add an image and add some description. And I'll give you an example. So the other day, I was speaking with a buyer. He was looking for some custom necklaces. And his idea was that, if it's for a couple who met on a certain location in a city, on a street, it would be really cool if you can have the coordinates and make like a necklace that can kind of show the map and highlight, this is a corner shop coffee that we met, things like that, right? So it's gonna be very difficult for you to turn that into a full paragraph of ideas. And then eventually he actually found something similar on Etsy, which lots of brands is selling it, maybe like as a seller would sell it for $40 or even up to $80 to $90. And then, so we found an image for him that looks something like this. This is the original one. So he has this, that you can see it has like the name that says Sarah, maybe it's the couple. It has the exact coordinates. And then it has kind of the map of where they met. And then also maybe the specific location or the block where this coordinate is based in. So that's a really cool idea, but it's really hard to describe. So all you need to do is just to add that image to Alibaba.com, and then it's going to go in and see if there's anything similar. So for example, this one looks almost exactly the same, and hopefully you have the ability to custom for you, right? And then roughly you can see that on Etsy, I think it was selling for about $40 to $50 at least. And then depending on if you are buying by bulk or maybe like having a deal with the supplier, then this is kind of roughly maybe the profit margin. Obviously you have to add shipping costs and all of that, but it gives you a general sense of maybe is this the right item to sell or to create for your shop. Right, so that's for image search. And the last one I mentioned earlier is for the AI search. And currently what we have, oh, I think I was only sharing one screen, but you can kind of see roughly kind of what it looks like. So I'm gonna go back. And then the last one is for AI search. So what's gonna happen later this month is that we're gonna have an upgrade for the product search that will allow you to interact with it just like with ChatGPT. And again, difference with ChatGPT is that with this version, you can actually see the actual suppliers or manufacturers with the actual product that then you can place an order on. But then in manufacturers, we have upgraded this one to allow you to do AI search. So as you can kind of see some of the examples here in the sample search bar. So what it allows you, especially this is cases where you have very specific customization needs, or maybe MOQ requirements, or maybe location requirements. So this allows you to add all of these things in. So maybe one example here I see is the glass wood car diffuser with LED lighting and essential oil compatibility, right? So lots of specific areas that you are looking for. So then what you can do is to describe it in natural language, and our AI agent in the back end is going to help you kind of look into what are the right keywords, are there additional business insights related to your search that might be helpful for you in your consideration. And then based on all of these analysis, it's going to kind of give you what are the suppliers. But in this case, maybe because you are looking for specifically a custom-made product, so you're not going to see exactly what it does, but it's going to kind of show you what are the suppliers, what kind of capabilities may have, so you can make a judgment call on whether they can kind of do that or not for you. So that's sort of searches. And I think the very last thing I'm just going through here, maybe the last thing I can call out is that in the product section, so let's say I'm going to go for binoculars for kids. Maybe you found something that was not exactly the same as you thought, but then you got kind of inspired, like, oh, I didn't think about this, but this looks more interesting. So there's this little feature right here that says find similar items. So let's just say you're looking for something and discover a new category or something kind of slightly different. And you can also use this feature to expand the search and see if there's anything not captured in your keyword that allows you to look for new opportunities. All right, so that's the first. And then let me just take a pause. I see some comments here asked about the company doing nearshoring. I think that question would be a yes, but I need to double check on that so I can follow up with you on that. Jason, that's a great question. I think I'll talk a little bit more in the next step, but I think you would have situations where there might be trading companies or they're kind of the middleman kind of looking it in. So I'll give you some additional best practices that we have learned from our buyers on how you can kind of validate that to make sure you are looking for exactly who you're looking for. So I'm going to come back to that.